Alright, so the main idea in chemistry is that matter is made up of atoms, and in order to understand the behavior of matter, we need to understand how atoms behave. So let's talk a little bit more about the different kinds of atoms. Now, when we talk about kinds of atoms, okay, basically you can differentiate them by the number of protons that they have. Okay, so the number of protons that an atom has gives its identity. So all atoms that have the same number of protons, we say, are of the same kind. So we call them chemically identical. Okay, so for purposes of chemistry, all atoms that have the same number of protons, they are the same kind, and we refer to the number of atoms usually with the symbol Z. That number is called the atomic number. So that's sort of like the identification number for an atom. Okay, all atoms that have, for example, 8 protons would have the same name. Okay, so a sample of matter that is just made up of one kind of atom, so that's the simplest possible sample of matter that you can have in front of you, and that would be called an element. So an element is just a sample of matter that's made up of just one kind of atom. All the atoms of a given sample of an element, if it's pure, would be of the same kind. So they are all going to have the same number of protons. So because of that, the name of the element and then shares this, the element and the atoms that make up the element share the same name. Okay, so they're used interchangeably, synonymously. Okay, so each element, okay, has a symbol, or each atom has a symbol based on the name, which is the same as the name of the element. And that symbol consists of 1 or 2 letters. The first letter is always capitalized, and the second letter, if there is one, is always in lowercase. Now, you may see some elements with a 3-letter symbol. When you see those 3 letters, those are what we call provisional symbols. They're not permanent yet. In other words, scientists have not agreed yet on a name. Okay, and those 3 letters actually gives you an idea of what the atomic number is of the atom. So let's look at some examples. The simplest atom is the one that has 1 proton, Z equals 1, and the name of that atom is hydrogen. So if you have a collection of atoms and they all have just 1 proton each, so that collection of that element would be called hydrogen. Okay. The symbol for that is just a 1-letter symbol, capitalized capital H. Okay. Your elements are listed. The known elements in nature, the ones that we know of, are listed. We've listed them in a chart called the periodic table or a periodic chart in order of increasing atomic number from left to right and from top to bottom. So here's an example of a periodic table that you can find online. You can, if you want a copy of this, you can do a search for NIST.gov. So you do a search NIST.gov periodic table, and you can get to the periodic table elements from that link. And this is that figure that I have shown earlier. Okay, this is the most recent version of the periodic table. Okay, you'll notice it's slightly different from the one I have. What do you notice? Some of these, okay, in the ones that I have here, look at these elements that have 3-letter symbols, UUN. That means onium. I'm sorry, not onium. Nilium. Un means 1, un is another 1, nil is 0, so that's element number 110. They don't know, they haven't decided on that name, they haven't agreed on the name for that yet, so they just call it nilium. That's a provisional name. Okay, so that's element number 110. That would be an atom that would have 110 protons. But if you look at the updated version, this by the way was from 2003. If you look at the current version of the periodic table as of 2014, element number 110 has been renamed. Okay, it's now has a 2-letter symbol, capital D, small s, Darmstadtium. Okay, Fl, it is fleruvium. That's 114, element number 114. Before that, in my periodic table here, that hasn't been named yet. It was unquadium. So unquadium is the provisional name for element 114 before they agreed on the name for it, which is now flerubium. Got it? Okay. Oops. Let's go back. Where am I? So here's the typical periodic table you'll see on your exams. Okay. It doesn't have as much information as the one I showed you earlier, but you should be familiar with what's on here. So you'll notice the atomic numbers are the whole numbers. 1, 2 is listed. The elements are tabulated in order of increasing atomic number, left to right, top to bottom. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. And you have the symbols for the elements. You don't have the names. That means you have to memorize the names and symbols. Because on a test, you'll just see a periodic table that just has the symbols. There's another number here. We'll talk about that in a little while. That's called the atomic weight. Okay. So let's answer this question. What is the symbol for the element whose atoms have 10 protons in their nucleus? Ne. And that element, if you look at the more complete periodic table that I showed you earlier, it's right here. That element's name is neon. So Ne is a symbol for neon. These are the atoms you'll find in your neon lights. Okay.